It was midnight, just hours after Gus had been taken from Toby Winters, when Toby broke into Freedom Miller High School. Toby descended the elevator to the lab underneath the school, just as he had done many times before. However, this time it was no longer a place of work, or a place that he knew he was safe. It was a place that could be infested with Novus Ordosa Chlorum goons at any instance. As Toby felt the elevator stop at the bottom, he held his silencer pistol, the same one he had stolen from the police officer who attacked him in the hospital, at the door, ready to shoot. He knew that these moments could be his last, a feeling he was used to by now. The door slowly separated, revealing the lab. Before Toby could ponder the differences in how the lab looked since he had last been there, he saw a tall man with a thick mustache standing across the lab, doing what appeared to be electrolysis, only with more advanced tools. "Don't move," Toby said quickly. Toby looked all around the lab, but the man and Toby appeared to be the only people there. "Toby Winters," the man said in a German accent. "I am Drive. Ortherschnapp." Dr. Ortherschnapp was talking way too calmly and formally for Toby's liking. He could instantly tell that this doctor was just another heartless criminal. As he kept his gun trained on Dr. Ortherschnapp, Toby analyzed the situation. The lab was massive, almost unrecognizable to what it looked like before. There was much better lab equipment, safety equipment, and most notably, a pool of brown water contained by a large steel basin. Toby had been looking at the doctor with his peripheral vision, and noticed that he took a few steps back. "Don't move," Toby repeated. "I really hate this job. How did you work here for so long?" Dr. Ortherschnapp asked. "For money," Toby replied bluntly. "I need Wintonium. Now." "Wintonium? Did you come up with that?" "I think Orthonium would be better. Even Tobonium is better than Wintonium." "I'll fucking kill you," Toby said, impulsively. "Oh, what's that over there?" Ortherschnapp shouted, pointing behind Toby. Toby's head didn't even flinch to look where the doctor had pointed. Toby stepped closer to the doctor, now standing behind the basin. "What's the shit water for?" Toby asked. "Chad. Timberton." What? While Toby was confused, Ortherschnapp quickly grabbed a Glock from the table behind him and aimed it at Toby. Toby's first instinct wasn't to take a gamble by trying to shoot the doctor before he shot him, but instead to fall to the ground behind the basin. Dr. Ortherschnapp shot his gun, but hit the wall behind Toby, who managed to get to the ground before he was shot. Toby, in an effort to easily kill the doctor, shot his silenced pistol through the basin, hoping that it would come out the other side and kill Ortherschnapp, but the water slowed the bullet down and it only dented the other side of the basin. Water exploded out of the basin and drenched Toby. Ortherschnapp leaned over the basin to shoot Toby, but Toby quickly recovered and was already aiming at the ceiling where Ortherschnapp would be. Ortherschnapp leaped backwards to avoid getting shot. Toby stood up to get an easy kill on Ortherschnapp, but he was kneeling on the ground on the other side of the basin where Toby couldn't get a clear shot on him. Ortherschnapp raised only his gun over the now empty basin and blindly fired it, but fortunately for Toby, none of the bullets came close. He still ducked down, though, to avoid getting hit by any more shots. When Toby stood back up, Ortherschnapp was backed against the elevator door, spamming the up button like there was no tomorrow as he pointed his gun Toby's way. For what felt like the millionth time, Toby ducked down again. Toby heard the elevator ascend, and now he was alone in the lab. He was so desperate to go up and kill Authorschnapp. Every Novus Ordo Seclorum member he killed, whether they were important like Mr. Dominus or a mere pawn. Like the police officers Toby killed in the hospital, could be the difference between dying and letting the world be powerless against the evil organization or defeating it once and for all. Despite this, chasing Authorschnapp was a fruitless endeavor, since he would likely already be driving away by the time Toby got to the main floor of the school. Toby, in a rush to escape the lab before Authorschnapp called for backup, destroyed every piece of equipment he could find, kicking them over and stomping on them. This included the electrolysis machine, which meant that Toby wouldn't be able to separate Wintonium from water for some time, but it was clear that this lab was no longer his. In the corner of the lab, Toby then found 3 barrels of Wintonium, and although he badly wanted all 3, he could only take one. If he tried to come back for the other 2 after taking one to his car, someone may have already come to kill him by then. Toby rolled the singular barrel into the elevator, and just before looking back at the lab that had broken equipment everywhere and every inch of the floor covered in different liquids, Toby cautiously exited the elevator, left the school, and put the barrel in his car and drove away without being seen by anyone. Despite his uncontrollable shaking and tiredness, Toby didn't want to sleep. When he got to his apartment, he searched everywhere to look for someone hiding there, but he was alone. He stared at the broken window, knowing he'd have to pay to get it fixed later. Fixing a broken window was nowhere near as big of a problem as being hunted by a terrorist organization, but going to court for not paying for it while being hunted would be a big inconvenience. Toby sat on his couch, gun in his lap, and called the person he needed the most right now, Sheriff Adam Porter. 1:30 a.m. was a bad time to be calling somebody, but it was necessary. Adam Porter answered the phone. Toby, hi. Toby replied. Is somebody forcing you to make this call? Adam asked. No. I'm safe, for now, Toby replied. I got out of the hospital 20 hours ago. There were policemen when I woke up. They tried to kill me, but I escaped. The NOS captured Gus Blue, and I have a barrel of Wintonium sitting in my apartment. I don't think I can survive much longer, Sheriff. They came to my house a few hours ago, then just 10 minutes ago I was almost killed in the lab. They're everywhere. I need to know what to do for the future of this city. The force isn't mine anymore, Adam said sorrowfully. You didn't see it, but I killed one of my own men, a cop I hoped I could trust, but he was being paid off by the NOS. They all turned against me, Toby. I have no power. My wife and I have been hiding underground with the other Patriots Council members in a bunker. You can come if you want. Toby wanted to call him a coward, but he couldn't blame him. The situation seemed hopeless. The Novus Ordo Seclorum had seemingly endless amounts of psychopaths, and although Toby felt like the Novus Ordo Seclorum wanted him dead more than anything, those psychopaths undoubtedly had Adam Porter at the top of their kill list. I will join you later. But I have work to do in Benko Falls. Is there anything I can do? Toby asked. Miles and Sam are still in the city, but they're almost as wanted as I am. I'm not sure if you are in contact with Bloodshot, but he gave me his number. I can give you all 3 of their numbers. You talked to Bloodshot? Toby asked, surprised. He insisted upon giving it to me, Adam confirmed. Toby paused for a moment. And what are you going to do? I will secretly gamble everything I have on online casinos. I still have internet access in the bunker. More money means more guns. Toby groaned. I already lost my daughter, Adam said. It couldn't get worse. Toby began to say, until Adam hung up. Adam texted Toby the numbers, and he started off by calling Bloodshot, who answered the phone almost immediately, but instead of talking first, he waited for Toby to talk first. This is Toby, Toby said. Porter gave you my number. Bloodshot assumed. Yeah. Porter left California. We can't rely on him anymore. What a coward, Bloodshot remarked. I don't think we should wait for Friday, we need to act now. The longer we wait, the more they torture Gus. I have a barrel of Wintonium. We can act now. I need to talk to the anarchists first, Bloodshot argued. No, you don't, Toby shot back. Okay, Bloodshot agreed. Do you live somewhere? Toby asked. Yeah. I'll send you the address. Bloodshot sent the address and Toby rolled the barrel back into his car along with his laptop, some food, and a pillow and a blanket just in case he needed to live in his car. The drive was half an hour to the outskirts of Benco, close to Fero. When Toby saw Bloodshot's house, he felt like he should have been surprised, but he wasn't. It was a 2-story mansion that must have been 100 square yards wide. He walked to the gate and pressed a button that was connected to a wire running into the ground. After a minute of waiting, Nicholas Fisher began to make the walk from his mansion to the gate along a path. He wore an oversized Megadeth t-shirt and baggy jeans, just about what Toby expected from a depressed superhero wannabe. Nicholas came to the gate and started to unlock it on a keypad. Name 3 Megadeth songs, Toby joked. Not funny, Nicholas said, glaring at Toby angrily. Toby hoped that he and Nicholas could maybe have a friendship, but it became clear that their partnership was strictly business. Toby put on a backpack that had his pistol, laptop, food, and a blanket in it, and Nicholas helped him roll the Wintonium barrel into the mansion. The inside of the mansion was very neat and spacious, with paintings and candles lit throughout. The first thing Toby did in the mansion was open the barrel and ask Nicholas for a plastic bag. Toby grabbed a lump of Wintonium and put it inside the bag. Nicholas gave him, and then he put the bag in his pocket. It made him feel a little safer. When he was fighting Harry and the police and he was about to die, throwing the bag of Wintonium into the air and shooting it was the only reason he was still alive to try it again. Toby put the bag and his gun in his pockets and put his bag in the living room, plugging his laptop charger into an outlet and eating a Snickers bar to keep him awake. Nicholas made him and Toby 2 cups of black coffee and they sat down in the living room, Toby on a couch and Nicholas on a massive fur bean bag. Nicholas put a Mozart record in a record player. Megadeth and classical music, Toby said with a grin. Heavier music is nice for serving justice, but classical music soothes my brain when I'm resting and helps me think, Nicholas explained. Does resting include sleeping? Toby asked jokingly. A full REM cycle is 90 minutes, which is all you need. Nicholas explained. It's about the quality of your sleep, not the quantity. Toby didn't necessarily agree with this statement, but it somehow seemed to be working for Nicholas. Toby realized that it was easy to get Nicholas to talk about himself, and he would have kept asking him questions like the ones prior, but Toby figured it would be a better use of their time to talk about the next steps. Toby took a sip of coffee and leaned forward and rested his elbows on his knees. Although we may never see Porter again, we still have Miles and Sam, the two police officers that were with us at the strip club. They're still in Bencow Falls, according to Porter, and I think that getting their help would be great, especially since they may know some things about the city that we don't. Nicholas nodded and Toby continued, and then, with the help of the anarchists, our odds of getting Gus back are sky high. Then, there are two other things we need to deal with. The first being firepower, and then I also was hoping we could go to your dad's house to check out the safe. Yeah, in an hour, Nicholas decided. Toby wanted to go at that very second, but at the same time, he didn't mind getting some sleep before they went to open the safe. Toby laid down on the couch and fell asleep to the relaxing classical music. Toby drove Nicholas to 27 Halgort Street, where there sat a small house that looked burned and mostly destroyed. The size of the house made Toby wonder how Nicholas could have possibly gotten as wealthy as he was. Toby and Nicholas stepped inside and walked into the basement that was left intact. Nicholas walked around with a sentimental look on his face, but no tears. In a cabinet there was a safe that Nicholas pulled out and set on the ground. He did the combination lock and it worked, and then he opened the safe. Inside was a folded note and a check for $100, but nothing else. Toby was disappointed that there wasn't anything that could help them defeat the Novus Ordo Seclorum, but Nicholas wasn't. Nicholas unfolded the paper and every line was filled with writing. Nicholas sat on the floor and started to read it. The more he read, the more tears began to stream down his face. He shakily frowned and started to weep, making sounds that Toby never imagined he'd hear from Nicholas. Toby had to remember that he was still just a kid who just needed somebody to talk to. Nicholas' crying and Toby's pondering were ended when Nicholas got to the last line. What? Toby asked. Say hi to Thomas Clark for me. Nicholas read. Suddenly, a beeping noise came from the safe. Huh? Nicholas said confusedly. They stood there for a few minutes, trying to figure out what was going on. They tried to stop the beeping, but instead gave up and walked back upstairs. However, when they did, they heard a car park out front. Toby and Nicholas left the house and saw a Honda Civic parked in front of them. Toby pulled out his gun and plastic bag of Winternium and Bloodshot, put in a pair of earbuds in and aimed his gun at the car. They slowly walked closer to the car, ready for anybody to come out of it, but they started to think that nobody was in it, since they didn't see anybody sitting in the seats. That was until Toby heard a girl's scream come from the car. Toby ran to the passenger seat doors and shot the mirror. He opened it from the inside and what he saw shocked him. Harry Roots and Alia DuPont laying on the floor of the car. Toby almost shot them both right there. But Bloodshot saw Toby put his finger on the trigger and ran to stop him. Not yet, Bloodshot said. Toby knew Bloodshot was right. They had information, and they served as hostages. Toby still hated them and wanted them dead for what they'd done. Don't shoot, Harry screamed. Shut up, Alia whispered to Harry. Get out, Toby ordered them. Bloodshot, search the area for anyone else. Harry and Aliyah fought to get out of the car. First, and both landed on the sidewalk on their faces. Bloodshot walked away and looked for any other Novus Ordo Seclorum members. Is Gus okay? Toby asked the pair. Yeah, Harry said, standing up. Toby searched every inch of Harry and Aliyah's bodies for a weapon as he talked. Why are you here? Toby took both of their phones, but found no weapons. VB put a sensor in the entrance of the house a few days ago, Aliyah began. We were in the middle of an argument with him when the sensor went off, and he forced us to come here with no weapons. What is VB's identity? Toby asked. Harry stood his ground. We'll never tell you. Then what was the argument? Toby asked. He's useless. Aliyah threw her hands up in the air. We have done more for the Novus Ordo Seclorum than he ever will, but he can't accept that. He gets angry when someone insults him, and he threatens them. Bloodshot came back. There's nobody around, but we should leave now. You drive, I'll interrogate, Toby said. Bloodshot nodded and the four of them got into Toby's car. Aliyah guided Bloodshot to where Gus was supposedly being held, and Toby had his gun aimed at Harry and Aliyah in case they tried anything. This is a trap, Bloodshot told Toby. Yeah, I know, Toby agreed. It's not, Aliyah argued. I appreciate that you truly think that, but they wouldn't send you here just to die or lead us back to their lair to let us take Gus, Toby said. They're gonna try and kill us. They will kill you, Harry corrected. Is that what you thought when Jake Clark betrayed the Patriots Council? Toby asked sarcastically. We got Klein, Harry argued. Toby didn't want to disrespect Klein, but he just couldn't stop himself. Ooh no. How the hell couldn't you kill Toby? Aliyah asked Harry. Harry didn't respond. The situation felt absurd to Toby. He was in a car listening to one of his biggest enemies making fun of one of his other biggest enemies for not being able to end his life. Answer the question, Toby said, smiling and pointing his gun at Harry. You're poor, Harry replied. Me or Toby? Aliyah asked. All of you, Harry said with a very serious look on his face. Bloodshot scoffed. I'm not poor, Aliyah yelled. If it weren't for your geek-ass father, you'd be a stripper begging me for my money. As you sucked my cock, Harry said, his voice cracking as he said the last words. Aliyah freaked out and started wailing on Harry, and he tried to defend himself without attacking her. Toby didn't feel any need to interfere. Harry managed to pick her up off of him and hold her against her seat. We're here, Bloodshot announced. The car arrived at a hill where there was a small tunnel in the side of a hill that was just big enough for a person to fit into. Bloodshot parked on the side of the road. If we make it out alive, can I live with you? Toby asked. Bloodshot. What? No. Bloodshot said as if Toby had just asked the stupidest possible question. I can't stay in my apartment. I'm running out of money, and I'm going to die soon if I can't stay with you, Toby complained. You're either lying or you really don't understand how good at surviving you are, Bloodshot said. Bloodshot got out of the car, and Toby sat there for a moment to wonder if he really could survive. He didn't have much time to decide, however, since Bloodshot made Aliyah and Harry get out of the car, Toby had to get going too. Toby and Bloodshot stood behind Aliyah and Harry, turning them into meat shields. Toby got the short end of the stick, however, since Aliyah was much shorter than him. The four crouched down and went into the tunnel. After walking for a minute, they reached a small dog door. Toby held his plastic bag of Winterneum and gun and Bloodshot put in his earbuds and checked the ammo in his gun. They shoved Aaliyah in first, then Bloodshot went, then Harry, and finally Toby. They found themselves in a cage in a small room, and even Aaliyah and Harry looked shocked. There was no way out of the cage other than leaving through the dog door. It's not worth it. Let's leave. Bloodshot decided. Toby was inclined to agree, until he heard a flurry of footsteps in the tunnel. Bloodshot and Toby grabbed the meat shield again and waited for imminent death to arrive. A man stuck his hand through the dog door and tossed a grenade into the cage. Toby acted fast and picked up the grenade and threw it between the bars of the cage, and it exploded on the wall of the room. The explosion left a ringing in everyone's ears, and the impact pushed them into the wall behind them. Harry screamed in agony, but nobody could hear it. A piece of shrapnel was lodged in Harry's shoulder, rendering him useless in a fight. Although the four were in horrible condition, the cage's bars were bent and they could escape the cage. Aaliyah helped Harry to his feet, and Bloodshot and Toby forced him to leave the cage rather than going with the men who attacked them. They opened a door and entered a room where there was a desk and a laundry machine, but nobody was in it. They entered room after room, and the place felt like a maze. However, the place being a maze helped to keep them hidden from the men who were pursuing them. "We have to stop," Aaliyah shouted. "Harry's hurt." Toby turned around to face Aaliyah and Harry. "Remember when you tried to kill me? I'm alive, you fucking bastard." Bloodshot smirked at Toby, and Toby pushed Harry and Aaliyah forward. They finally found a room with another person. Gus. Blue. Gus was holding a gun and fired it at Toby, but his shaky hands and lack of gun training caused a terrible miss. Toby tackled Gus to the ground and easily took the gun from his hand. "I hate you," Gus screamed. "I fucking hate you." "Why?" Toby asked. Gus just kept repeating the same words. "I hate you." "They brainwashed him," Bloodshot said. Toby heard footsteps coming from nearby, and knew that the only way out was to shoot the men, except for one other solution. Toby threw the bag of Winterneum into the air as far away from himself as he could, and it exploded, causing the ceiling to fall down and create an opening. Toby threw Gus upwards, and then they all climbed out and got in Toby's car and drove to Bloodshot's mansion. Bloodshot gave Aaliyah medical supplies to treat Harry's wounds, and Gus was tied up. "By tomorrow afternoon, you and Gus are out of my home," Bloodshot told Toby. "I'll keep Aaliyah and Harry here." Toby was upset but understood. At that moment, Toby got a call from an anonymous number. He answered it and heard a voice say, "We will find you."